the #1 security program on television.
Haka kuma muna kira ga matasa wanda ƙasa ta dogara ga su ne nan gaba, su ne manyan gobe. Don haka tun a yanzu su yi ƙoƙari su rabu da dukkan waɗansu abubuwa waɗanda za su jawo wa ƙasar nan wahala ta yin laifuffuka. Su yi biyayya ga shugabanninsu da iyayensu da kuma taimakawa ƙasa baki ɗaya ta gudu da janye jiki ga irin dukkan laifuffukan da ake yi a ƙasa.
Crime fighters, promoting security consciousness.
Life in Nigeria was very peaceful and easy in the early 70s. One remembers with nostalgic feelings how people went to bed with both eyes closed. Nightlife then was so very beautiful and interesting. Generally, life in the early 70s was full of splendor. People went out whenever without fear of losing their cars or getting killed by robbers. There were no high fences, no barricades of whatever sort, no street gates, no burglar proofs, and in fact, no one knew way back then what was called the American wire fence we see all over the country these days. People were their brothers' keepers and neighbors were very friendly. One could go on a journey for days with neighbors watching over each other's properties. But no sooner the war ended with the government's inability to mop up the leftover arms used during the Civil War, which got into wrong hands, that we began to witness pockets of robberies here and there. Robberies then were associated with illiterates, and the ages of the perpetrators were between 35 and 50. Those were the days when robbers would go to people's houses at the not with the intention of killing the occupants, but merely to dispossess them of their belongings. Robbers then wore masks to conceal their identities and would take to their heels at the slightest alarm from the occupants of the invaded house. Perhaps the first sort of recorded violent crime in Nigeria started with the likes of Anikura, Ishola Oyenusi, Mighty Joe, Babatunde Folorunsho, and Ambrose Nwokobia. These were evil geniuses. It was shortly after the war, and they did a lot to contribute to the feelings of insecurity in the country. They left their footprints on the sands of time, writing themselves in the nation's history books, though in an inglorious way. The hallmark was striking like demons and vanishing like ghosts, all within seconds. They constituted Nigeria's most notorious robbers, whose exploits continue to haunt those who witnessed their reign of terror. It is on record that no other robber has bestowed the nation like a colossal before Ishola Oyenusi. He was the friend who held sway in Lagos and its environs for 5 solid years, elevating himself to the mates proportionally caught and publicly executed in the famous Babbage show. Then came the 80s, the era of Lawrence Anini. His second in command, Monday Osubo, Yupela Dakoru, and Nelson Delf. These were robbers in their late 20s who robbed with commando style and razzmatazz. They gave the nation sleepless nights with their exploits of gigantic proportion. People believed they could strike anywhere at any time. At a stage, the whole nation was suffused with the dread of their invisible powers, to the extent that the then military president, Ibrahim Babangida, asked the former Inspector General of Police, Etim Eyang, where is Anini? In the 90s, Shina Rambo held sway. He was referred to as the Lord of Manon. He was in his mid-20s when he started to torment Nigerians. He only snatched very expensive cars, which he exported to neighboring West African countries. He and his gang moved about in convoy of flashy cars whenever they went on robbery operations. He was eventually killed in a gun duel with the police. The new millennium era brought in Calvin Kakure group. We call them the new generation robbers. They were social, political, and religious function. They were graduate millionaire robbers who introduced sophistication and dynamism into robbery. These were teenage robbers who lived large and big from the proceeds of robbery. They lodged in 5-star hotels all over the country and drove the best of cars. These robbers and their families lived abroad and breezed into the country once in a while to rob their victims. Some of their modus operandi include tying off palm fronds on their vehicle to give the impression that the corpse was being taken home for burial, moving in bridal train as if somebody was about to get married, all in a bid to rob without being detected by the law enforcement agencies. Have we ever stopped to ask ourselves some salient questions on what led to the kind of robberies we witness these days? If 33 years after the Civil War, we still get to see this commando style of robbery, then there is a problem. These men didn't just get into robbery overnight. Most of them have their reasons. While some would say they got into robbery to get back at the society that neglected them, others say they joined robbery gang out of employment. Really, a lot of people attribute the soaring rate of robberies to unemployment. Yes, we agree. But what about those that are gainfully employed and yet collude with robbers to rob the company that pays their salary? Or what do you say of those who have not reached an employable age, the juvenile robbers, who are co-opted into big-time robbery from sleeping in motor parks as kid bus conductors?
My name is Friday. I come from River State.
How old are you?
19 years.
Where do you live now?
At Ojo.
Where in
Ojo
Ojo?
Barras.
Where in Ojo?
Camp 1. Something, if I all this one, I know them for school. But
What school?
primary school. So small I can't see them, I can't wear better clothes. Sometimes if I walk out with me then, if I don't go do pure water work, come back. If I walk out with me then, they will give me them clothes to help them wash. They will give me some kind of money, I take chop. Sometimes they will give me 200 naira, 100 naira, I take chop. Now small time something come they call me in nearby. So as something they call me nearby, they come tell me say, brother, I know like how they get money. I said, I like how they get money. I'm going to say, man, no worry. I'm going to carry me near body. So the first day when he carried me go up, and the for that Greek, I was enter the main road. One coaster come stop. As the coaster stop, I come shoot gun for up. As they shoot gun for up, the coaster come park. Come enter inside the coaster, collect money.
To really stem the tide of robbery in the country, we need to consider the causes and effects of robbery, particularly the causes such as poor moral background, joblessness, insincerity of government, poverty, lack of parental care, indiscipline among the elites, and the failure of religious groups.
My name is Ikenna Ogbu. Yes. When I came to Lagos 99. When I came to Lagos 99, a friend of mine, Ukbepe Tux, was applying Richie Company. Then I'm doing nothing. He told me if I can write application to the company. I told him, my friend, you know, I come from a very poor family. I have no resource. You understand? Okay. He assisted me. I borrowed resort from somebody.
Parents and guardians wake up to the topmost responsibility of looking after the kids and wards. The days are gone when kids are left at the mercy of household and relations. Parents should be able to know where their kids are at any particular point in time. They should be able to tell the type of friends their children keep and ask questions about how they come about certain expensive items. Government on its part has to really address so many issues. Listen to some of the advice and the comments from the suspects.
Daily Moses.
So, how you take join armed robbers?
Yorùbá ni mi ò gbọ́ Òyìnbó.
Oh, listen, rárá. So,
díẹ̀díẹ̀ náà ni. Látìgbà tí mo ti bẹ̀rù olè mo wà láàrin àwọn olè ńláńlá ní Jàǹkàrà lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ mẹ́rin. Ìgbà yẹn lẹ̀dẹ̀ ni mo ń rù. Olè kan náà dẹ̀ ló gbégbó fún mi pé kí n máa tà. Àti ibẹ̀ náà dẹ̀ ni mo ti ń lẹ́ni lọ díẹ̀díẹ̀. Títí dé pé mo wá rulẹ̀ mọ́ ṣá. Ìgbà tí mo wá ń tàgbó débi pé àwọn pípò yẹn tó bá ti lọ ṣiṣẹ́ tó bá ti dé wọ́n á fún mi ní nǹkan oríṣiríṣi máa lọ tà. Àti ibẹ̀ tí mo ṣe ta igbó mọ́ náà nìyẹn. Mo ṣá ń tẹ̀lé wọn díẹ̀díẹ̀ tèmi náà fi. Mo ń tẹ̀lé wọn lọ hustle náà ni. Kí n kàn lọ já báàgì gbà. Kí n kàn lọ já báàgì gbà fàdà alẹ̀. Táwa já báàgì gbà táwa yáda owó inú ẹ̀ wá kú. Ǹjẹ́ lè gbé báàgì yẹn kí n lọ tà ń tèmi ṣá kí n fi rówó díẹ̀díẹ̀. Ìgbà tán kọ́ police post sí Jàǹkàrà ẹ̀ anybody wọn scatter. Ìgbà tí wọ́n wá kó tí mo kó mi lọ jọra nìyẹn. Àti jọra yẹn mo ti ń rí gang díẹ̀díẹ̀. Bí kí wọ́n máa lò bọ́n náà ni. Ọkà mi náà ni. Àti ibẹ̀ náà dẹ̀ láti bẹ̀rẹ̀ láti máa ṣe gbogbo nǹkan báyìí. Láti máa lò bọ́n náà ni. A fi ń gbowó náà ni. Ibi tí mo ti lọ gbowó kò ju bí ọgbà yẹn náà lọ. Ibi táwọn Ahmed náà sọ náà. Ọgbà náà ni. First Bank ni. Mo gbé bọ́lá ni. Ọ̀tọ̀ ní gbogbo gbà yẹn. Ọ̀tọ̀ ní gbogbo gbà yẹn.
Pẹ̀lú bó ṣe ga tó báyìí bá mú ilé wa lọ báyàn nílé ó máa ń lọ visiting
náà ni wọ́n á lọ.
visiting ló máa ń lọ kí àwọn tó máa lọ bá nílé wọn báwo ló fi máa ń ṣe wọn.
Mi ṣe wọ́n bá kan pàpọ̀ mi kan máa ń sọ fún wọn ní listen to me everybody right now. Listen to me everybody right now special robber for Abuja. Special robber for Abuja is around.
So kí ni tí wọ́n sọ special robber from Abuja yìí náà? Wọ́n sọ special robber from Lagos. Wọ́n lè jẹ́ lóyún. Jẹ́ ká wá sí ti robbery sí ní ọ̀mìn.
Àmọ́ ọ̀fọ́ gidi mú mi.
Kí ló dé sọ fún ọ̀fọ́ gidi mú?
Bàtà mi ìjòkó bí ara sí mi, èmi dẹ̀ sá kúrò ní tèmi.
So sísá tó sá kúrò ní tèmi bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí lọ máa gbé dọ̀tí.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Dọ̀tí tó ń gbé yẹn tí ò pa owó nú ẹ̀.
Àwọn oúnjẹ ni máa ń rí mẹ́.
Owó kí ló wá ń wá nú ẹ̀ tẹ́lẹ̀?
Àmọ́ àárín àwọn tí mo ti ń gbé dọ̀tí náà àárín àwọn olè náà ni.
So kí ló fi pé kí wọ́n ṣe nípa àwọn boys bírù wọn tó máa ń wà ní ọjà àwọn ibi tó ti ń kó dọ̀tí níbi bus stop níbi under bridge kí ló fi pé.
Best thing tó lè ṣe fún wọn kó máa kó wọn kó tiẹ̀ máa lọ dà wọ́n síbì kan kó máa jẹ́ kó máa kọ́ṣẹ́. Torí tó ìwà yẹn tó bá jẹ́ kó ṣe gbogbo nǹkan báyẹn armed robbery must to plenty for Nigeria too much. Torí wọ́n máa lẹ́nu oríṣiríṣi ni torí ìdílé rúrú ni mo ti lẹ́nu gbogbo ilé. Àwọn tó dẹ̀ ń rulẹ̀ náà oríṣiríṣi wọn kẹ̀dẹ̀rẹ̀ wọ́n ń sun abẹ́ bridge gbogbo àwọn tó máa ń sun abẹ́ bridge tó máa ń gádà jọ yẹn oríṣiríṣi nǹkan ló máa ṣe kíni ló máa mú jáde wọ́n máa mú jáde láti máa fi ṣe jàmbá ní inú ìlú.
You have heard it from one of the suspects.